Okay, hit that there on the screen. Fantastic. All right,
You're listening to The Voice, 17104.com.
Hello. You're listening to the voice107.com, but guess what? This is not Rick, even though this is Rick's place. My name is attorney Lorianne Jenkins, and Mr. Ellis was so gracious enough to give me some time on this program. I wasn't expecting the whole program, but I have a lot to tell you about myself and what I'm about. On May the 16th, which is this coming Tuesday, it is the primary election for our area, and I am running for Magistrate District Justice of the 1215. That's our 29th Street Courthouse. So I want to take this time today to tell you about myself, my platform. We're going to open up the phones, allow you to call in and ask questions, and I want to give you the chance to get to know me. My name, once again, is Lorianne Jenkins. I wasn't originally born here in Harrisburg, but my parents were. My father was a military man, and he was stationed at Loring Air Force Base. That's where I was born. I was born and raised in Loring, but I've always considered Harrisburg my home. Every summer, every holiday, we were right back here visiting our family. My grandmom and her people were over on Bow Street, while my dad and his people were over on Cumberland Street near 13th. So I'm right at home. Don't let the fact that my birth certificate says Maine fool you. I'm a Harrisburg person. So I want to tell you about my platform. First of all, I'm an attorney. I have been for 20 years. I took the state bar right here across the river. I passed on my first try. Additionally, I have a master's in public policy and management. I have a bachelor's in political science. The reason I tell you all of these things is not to impress you. I want you to understand that I am trained and qualified for the position I'm asking you to support me in. As magistrate justice, that is the first position that anyone receives or meets as they enter into the court system, and hopefully not the penal system. So whoever sits behind that bench needs to be prepared, because they really do have someone's life in their hands. Not only do they do things like traffic violations, tenant-landlord disputes, but they make decisions on whether people will go to jail, whether people will get an amount of bail that they can afford, things of that nature that affect your actual freedom. And I think when things get that important, you need to have someone who is well learned and well studied to make those decisions. That is not to say that anyone else who is currently there without those credentials are not good, but I want you to know what I would bring to the table. Now, I know I said earlier that I have a bachelor's in political science and a master's in public policy, and you're probably going, what's that have to do with law? Well, actually, that's where law starts, with the policymakers, with the legislatures. That's who brings those words together on the paper that rule over your life. They figure out the intent of a crime. They figure out how long crime should last, how long punishments for crime should last. They figure out what is right and what is wrong, and they make it into law. So because I have a history or a background in policy work, I understand the intent of the laws that govern over you. Being an attorney, many people come to me and say, this is what happened. This is what went wrong. I didn't do this. I didn't mean that. That means I understand what you're going through. I understand your fears. I understand your concerns, what you do understand and what you don't understand. And for each person, it's different. Each case that comes before the bench is different. Although the law may have a set of rules, criteria, and sentences, each person needs to be treated with respect, and their considerations, their circumstances need to be properly weighed into the law. It is not a stamped situation. You can just stamp that person's file and send them on. You need someone who's going to listen, someone who's going to care, someone who's going to take in consideration what you're going through, what you were thinking at that time. And unfortunately, when our courts are very busy, some justices don't take that time. But I want you to know I have the time for it, because I understand what's at stake. I don't think you're just another number. I think you're a person that deserves respect. When you come into a courthouse, you should know what's the possibilities of what could occur. A lot of times we walk into court and someone will say, just do this, it's the easiest. That may not be the best for your life, because that might have a bad situation, cause a bad situation later on. So I want you to understand that if I'm your justice, things may not go as quickly, but we're going to make sure that every determination that you make, you understand what's going on. And that's important. It's important that you make educated decisions about what happens while you're in that process. And is that the job of a judge? No, but this is the situation. If you don't know that information, how is process due? That's not due process if you're just pushed through the system. And I don't want that for you. So what we're going to do is, because I want you to get to know me, we have some testimonials. And I think we're going to go to Pastor Chris, and he's going to play a testimonial at this point so that you can find out a little bit more and what other people are saying about me. These are not professionally done. I called people and said, you tell them what you know about me. And they said, what do you want me to say? I said, that's not my business, because your experience with me is what I want them to know, good, bad, or otherwise. So, Pastor Chris.
Lori will treat everyone with respect. Lori will make sure that the law will be applied evenly across all color, gender, and economic background. Lori has been a mentor for years for children, young women, and people in high leadership roles throughout her life. Lori is honest. Lori sits there and takes time to help out members of the community. She, by far, is the best candidate out there. Make sure you guys go and vote for her, May 16th.
Thank you, thank you. That was a person that I met a couple of years ago. And like she says, I have the time. One of the reasons I think it's very important that I take time is someone took time with me. And we have to remember back when we were not as wise as we may be now, and how impetuous we may have been, that someone stopped and said, listen, this is how it goes. This is what's going to be good for you. This is not what's good for you. Now, this is the interesting thing. I have several policies that I feel are very important that I want to go over that are, I guess, my platform. The first that I've discussed already is I want to make sure that there are clear and concise procedures that are understood by all who participate in the courtroom. I want you to know what's the dress code. I want you to know what the charges are that are being brought before you. I want you to know what are the types of sentences, what are the types of punishments, things of that nature. As a justice, I may not be able to give you all of that information, but I can make sure that you have the resources to get that information. And I think it's very important that you're open to the resources or introduced to the resources that you can do the best thing for yourself. I think we heard a phone call.
You have to have them call back. They were calling as you were being
Okay,
introduced.
I'm
So
sorry.
we have your other testimonials.
Great.
You're ready.
Another one of my platform pieces on this campaign season is that every person, whether you are a court clerk, whether you are the plaintiff, whether you are the petitioner, all these different people play a part in the court process. And every single one of them deserves respect. No one is bigger than anyone else. The person behind the bench is no greater than the person sitting in the audience. The bailiff is no more important than the person walking in has been charged. The police officers who come to testify, they're no more important. We are all important. And if we don't show each other respect, how do we build back community? When you respect each other, there will be respect for the bench, and the bench in turn will give you respect. When we have respect in our courthouses, that flows out into our streets. When people understand that that's a place that's going to be fair, that courthouse is a place that's going to respect my culture, that courthouse is a place that's going to respect me as a person. They're going to do what's necessary, but they won't humiliate me. They won't talk down to me. I can ask questions and not feel embarrassed. I can ask questions that I don't even know if it's the right question to ask, but I feel comfortable and I can interact with this courthouse. And when you feel comfortable and you can interact with those that you are dealing with, the results are going to be a lot better for you. It's already a scary process to begin with. It's already overwhelming. There's no need for you not to feel respected or human when you come into the courts. And a lot of times that's what happens. So I promise that when you come to the 1215, when you elect Lori Ann Jenkins, you're going to know why you're there. You're going to understand what to expect, and you are going to be respected as an individual. If we can go to another.
My name is Dawn Gillette Crossan. I'm a licensed psychologist and a certified trauma therapist, and I've been working in the field of psychology since 1998. I enthusiastically support attorney Lori Ann Jenkins for Magistrate District Justice. I've known Lori for over 20 years, professionally and personally, and she is a woman of integrity and a woman of God. She keeps her word. If she says she's going to do something, she will do it. Lori is loyal and dependable. She is a good friend and very family-oriented. Relationships are very important to her, and she works diligently to maintain healthy connections and communication. She is honest. She will tell you the truth in love because she has your best interests at heart. Lori's dedication to helping families and small businesses for over 20 years is evident of her ability to be a fair, just, and disciplined magisterial district justice. I am confident that she is able to do the job.
Great, great. That was Dawn Crossan. She works in trauma. And that brings me to my next point. We have all had different experiences that have weighed on us differently. And for different reasons, we wind up in front of a courthouse bench. But my issue is, how do we as a fair people allow someone to come to the courthouse, go through the process, the legal process, be sentenced, whether that includes incarceration or just probation, and we just let them leave the courthouse without any real counseling, without any tutoring, without any mentoring, and expect them not to come back? One of the things that I think is very important is when you come to the courthouse for repeat offenses, that means something's going on in your life. And when that happens, I would like to see counseling, mentoring, tutoring done with that person, because we got to figure why you keep making the same mistakes. We want every citizen to have the chance to be their best selves. We want citizens who come to before the courthouse to leave and say, you know what, I did this wrong, but now I have tools to do something different. And if we don't help people that we see are not doing well do different, how do we expect them to do different? Someone had to show us. We didn't all become great people all by ourselves. There was that special teacher, or that old lady across the street, or that person that you met at the ball field that coached all the little kids. Someone took a personal interest in you and said, listen, I see that you're going through something. I see that you're not doing well and coping with something. So this is what I'm suggesting. Let me mentor you. Let me help you. When we have folks who come before the bench for DUIs and other substance abuse, they mandate counseling. But if we see someone who keeps coming before us for domestic violence or just violence or whatever the behavior is repeatedly, we have to stop and say, what's going on? We just can't sentence them to more of what we sentenced them before, because obviously that didn't work. We have to take an interest in our citizens, because this is just not some random person coming before us. That's our neighbor. That's our fellow citizen. We might even know that person personally because we remember them when they were a child growing up. But we have to take more interest in what we're doing in terms of incarceration, in terms of rehabilitation, in terms of, and the new phrase is restorative justice. Because if we keep going like we are, we're throwing away so much value, because every person has value. Every person has a destiny, and it cannot be fulfilled if they're in behind prison walls. So it's my goal that if we see repeat offenders in the courtroom, that we do more than just sentence them to a punishment, but we help them get better so they don't have to come back again in that capacity. I think we have a commercial.
Yes, ma'am.
There's so much I can do.
Fair, just,
Only trust me to.
honest, disciplined, experienced.
There becomes a rose.
20 years practicing law. 16 years as a homeowner and resident of the Hill. She's worked for the Commonwealth 11 years fighting for the rights of people of color, disabled citizens, and people inside the prison system.
Mountains control the sea.
She is honest. She will tell you the truth in love because she has your best interest at heart.
She's realistic, she's an amazing listener, and she cannot be intimidated nor bought.
Hello, my name is Attorney Lori Ann Jenkins, and on May the 16th, I need your help. I need you to come out and vote for me for Magistrate District Justice of the 1245. That's the 29th Street Courthouse. And together, we're going to turn this neighborhood, this community, Harrisburg, back to the way it used to be. Once again, May the 16th, Lori Ann Jenkins, number 3 for the Democratic ballot. I look forward to seeing you on Tuesday. Thank you. That song, There's So Much I Can Do, is by one Dwayne Harvey out of Atlanta, Georgia. Please look him up if you have the chance. And if you listen to we have a phone call. Go ahead.
Yes, I believe we do have a caller. Go ahead, caller. You're on the air live with Lori Ann Jenkins. Go ahead with your question and comment, please.
Hi, my name is Ann Jackson. I understand that she's a lawyer, but my question is, because she knows the law, will that bog the system down more versus the swiftness of the normal magistrate judge?
What I will say is this. It may take a little longer, but what happens when a magistrate judge doesn't necessarily get it right? It gets appealed to the common pleas court, and they reverse it and then send it back to the justice office. So if it doesn't get done right at first, like with all appeals, it gets sent back, and that's additional time. Now, generally, in between the time that the magistrate makes the decision and the appeal occurs at the common pleas level, the person is a lot of times incarcerated, which means they're away from their family. And if they're the breadwinner, it means their family is now without some part of the source of income they're used to. The children are without their parent. And there's a lot of things that go on that the system doesn't necessarily, I don't say that the system doesn't consider it, but it's not the first thought of the system. So we want to get it right the first time. And that's not to say that everyone, that the justices who don't have a law degree are not getting it right. But we know we have a clogged prison system. that is making things very difficult for families to be reunited, is making things difficult for children to really understand who they are because they don't have their parents around. These are I would say symptoms of what justice that is not done correctly are. And I want to avoid that. I think people deserve the chance to experience a system that will be fair and just and do the right thing while not destroying their family at the same time, if it's possible. So yes, I'm a lawyer. Yes, I know a little bit more than some others. And yes, it might take a little longer to make sure that justice and that understanding for the people who are coming forward, it may take a little longer, but I think that wait is worth it. And I think anybody who's realistic about that wait will tell you the way I would choose to make that system happen is they would get that information way before the court date. It's not like you give the court date out for the following week. They would be given that information out so that they can look into it. But the information will be given in a timely factor or in a timely manner that allows that person to do the necessary investigation and make sure that justice is served and make sure it was done fairly. I hope that answers your question.
Yes. I have one more question. May I ask one more question?
Please and thank you.
My second question is, I was reading her bio, and it says she's an outstanding church girl person. So will that conflict her church beliefs and the justice system? Is that going to be a conflict of interest? Thank you.
I don't believe the church and the justice system is a conflict of interest. First of all, the law is the law, and that's what we'll follow. The law is the law, and that's what courts follow, and that's what my bench will follow. My personal beliefs, that dictates how I treat people. It doesn't dictate what I can do. I'm not going to go to the Bible to see what your sentence will be. I'm going to go to the law. But the Bible is what restricts me from being disrespectful to you. The Bible is what's going to keep me fair. The Bible is what's going to make me say, you know what, even though this person may not be from this, fancy neighborhood, they deserve the same chances as the person from the fancy neighborhood. That's what does it for me. What is the restraint that other judges use to make sure they're doing those things? I can't tell you. But for me, Christianity makes me say, you deserve it. You deserve the law and justice and fairness and respect. So that's how it controls me, but it doesn't control the decisions.
So do you believe there's a difference in law and state? Is there a crisscross? Should law, state, and church be combined?
No,
do you believe in the separation there of church and state?
I sure do, because everyone should be making their own decisions about what their religion is or isn't. That is not the state's responsibility, nor should it be their business.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for calling, caller. You have 4 minutes.
I would like to touch on one other platform, and that's bail. The purpose of bail is to restrain you or to make sure you participate in the court process. And I think it's completely unfair that if you cannot afford bail, that you're sent to jail, because that's almost a punishment before the trial. I want to make sure that bail is fair, reasonable, so that you are going to come back for your court hearings, but that you can live with your family. You can continue to be a provider and a important part of the community, because even though you may have done wrong, it does not mean you're useless. So, fair bail, counseling, we want to make sure that everyone's treated fairly and with respect. Now, guess what? I can't do it by myself. I need you. I need you first to go out on the 16th and vote for me. I'm hopefully Magistrate Justice Lori Ann Jenkins, and I'm number 3 on the Democratic ballot. On the Republican ballot, you're going to have to write my name in. Now, if you have some free time, we can use you on our team. We're looking for people to help advertise that I'm out here vying for this position. We're looking for people to work the polls. We're looking for people to drive people to the polls and back home because we want to make sure everyone has the chance to vote. So as we, me, you, and all of your friends fight together, we're going to make Harrisburg great again. We're going to make Harrisburg the community where kids could walk down the street, go to the corner store, and you just had to stand on your porch and wait for them to come back. We're going to make Harrisburg the community where we were helping our neighbors and not running from our neighbors. We're going to make sure that Harrisburg's the community where we can help our neighbors get their groceries in the house and they don't have to worry. Because that's the Harrisburg I remember. That's the Harrisburg I loved coming to every single summer. That's the Harrisburg I miss. And I know that's the Harrisburg we can be again, where everyone has the chance, everyone's respected, everyone has the ability to be a part of a vibrant community that is based on respect and love. We can do it again. We can do it again. So Lori Ann Jenkins, I'm fair, I'm just, I'm disciplined. Thank you. Hello, I'm attorney Lori Ann Jenkins, and on May 16th, I need you to get out to the polls and vote for me for Magistrate District Justice of the 1215. On May 16th, together, we're going to turn our community around. I'm fair, I'm just, I'm disciplined, and I'm your next Magistrate District.
The Voice 17104.com. This is Zanetta Wingfield, and you're listening to The Voice 17104.com. The Voice 17104.